What's going on, everybody? Jeff Rose, GoodFinancialSense.com and SoldierOfFinance.com, hitting you again with another interview. I'm excited to have what I would say a friend, a blogging ally. His name is Phil Taylor. You may know him as PT Money of PTMoney.com. And Phil and I have some time, and we actually met in San Antonio for the first time for a little USAA conference, but nothing compared to the Financial Blogger Conference, which we're going to be talking about. And just to kind of put this in perspective so people kind of understand what I'm talking about here, if you can remember whether it was in high school or maybe it was in college, and you had your friend or a classmate that threw the sickest party, meaning that everybody that was anybody that was there, anybody, any guys that you want to be there, or the hottest chicks that you want to be there, anybody that was the coolest that were going to be there showed up, and it was like the party that everybody was talking up until the actual party. Everybody had a blast during the entire time, and then afterwards, it was that party that you didn't want to end. And my friends, that was the Financial Blogger Conference for me. So I want to say, Phil, thank you for taking all this time, and that's what I want to learn about today, is how much time that really was. But truly just for taking it on your shoulders and throwing a really kick-ass conference, a kick-ass party, for us financial bloggers, us geeks out here. So I just want to say thank you, Phil, for doing that.
Well, you're welcome, Jeff. It was definitely my pleasure, and that was a wonderful way to describe it. I appreciate that. So, yeah, it was a blast for me as well to plan, to be at, and hearing all the recaps and reviews has been wonderful as well. So people were really energized to be there, and like you say, it was the party everyone was ready to go to, and it kind of went down in a positive way. So yeah, I'm really thankful.
It's huge, man. So, but before I get ahead of myself, for those that aren't really familiar with you and kind of what you're doing online, tell us a little bit about your blog and what kind of got you started in the blogging scene.
Sure. I started reading personal finance blogs back in 05, 06, sort of to get my own financial situation together. And then in 2007, about April of that year, I decided I should probably do this for myself, start my own blog. And so I started PT Money. My name's Philip Taylor, so PT, and my friends from high school used to call me PT, and so PT Money just sort of worked. But my blog is about my journey with money, so whether that's dealing with debt, figuring out ways to make extra money, how to save your money better, or how to spend it more wisely. So just sort of the whole realm of personal finance, and not only my story, but information to help others, maybe people that are younger than me, who are just starting to save for a house or pay off some debt, or figure out maybe a side income project they want to get into. So that's what my blog's about. I've been doing it since 07, and I really enjoyed it. And one of the best aspects of being a personal finance blogger is getting to interact with people like you, people who are also doing it. And so I really took to that part of it as well. Not only my own community and my own voice, reaching out to my audience, but also connecting with other bloggers themselves, because oftentimes that's a big portion of my audience anyway, my dedicated audience. So is other people who are doing what I'm doing. So that's me. That's PT Money.
Yeah, and I'm definitely going to have some links, some screenshots. I think one of the coolest posts, which I think you converted to an ebook, was your 52 ways to make extra money or side income. Can you share a little bit about that post and kind of what that did for your site?
Yeah, to be honest with you, thinking back, I don't really remember why exactly I wrote that article, other than to try to be helpful and to put together maybe a resource for people who are just looking for little extra ways to make money, right? I mean, whether it be to have more money to pay off your debts, or whether it be to supplement your full-time job. People, I guess, are looking for that extra. And as the economy has worsened, it seems like that post has only gained traction. People are all looking for that type of information. So, yeah, I wrote that post, and somehow I got picked up on MSN.com, and it's been a very popular post on my site for a long time. And yeah, eventually I did take that idea, so that concept, and expand it into a full ebook, which you can download for free on my website. As long as you sign up for the email list. So So that's been interesting. It's been a big part of my site, I guess. And so, a lot of my focus of my blog has started to shift toward, helpful ideas to help people make money. Sort of the next level of after you get out of debt, after you maybe learn how to save, and maybe what's some ways to maybe ramp up your income so you can get to retirement quicker, or if you are still working on some debt, how to get out of those, that situation quicker. So my blog, I feel like, is shifting toward this. I don't want to call it a make money blog, but more entrepreneurial, extra money making ideas type blog. And so that's sort of where I want to shift. Entrepreneurial stuff, small business, that's what's starting to interest me. So that's where I see my blog shifting.
And is that you have a podcast that you're doing as well? Is that kind of some of the topics you're talking about?
Right, yeah, that's what I do with the podcast, the Part-Time Money Podcast, which I talk about ways that people could make extra money with their part-time. So famous author calls it the other 8 hours. I'm sure you've heard that before. Basically, what are you doing with your part-time, whether it be a part-time job you're taking on or whether that be some kind of part-time business that you want to start up. So I'm exploring sort of those ideas and interviewing people who are having success doing those things. So yeah, that's kind of a new area for me.
So you've been blogging since 2007. You made some good online contacts. At what point in time did you start thinking, wow, it would be neat to have a conference? What kind of gave you some of those ideas?
Yeah, well, obviously I like the blogging community. I started interacting with them in online forums, emailing, commenting on their sites, things like that. And I also started attending a few conferences. I attended some WordCamps and some affiliate marketing summits. And these are opportunities where I could actually meet some of the bloggers face to face. It was great. And I left those offline meetings feeling re-energized about my blog, more educated about how to treat my blog like a business and actually make it make some money off of it. But also, I just felt like the people who were also doing financial blogging were my kind of people, and so there was almost like an instant connection when I talked to these folks. And so I put those two things together. I said, okay, well, I want to have that feeling times 10, and I want to have that educational level times 10. I want to let's get all these people together in one spot, and then we can all just celebrate the fact that we're all, each other's people. Here we are together, and then we're also helping each other learn and progress with our online businesses. So that was kind of the twofold reason for putting it together.
Okay. So can you recall approximately when was the month or the year that you said, okay, I'm going to do it? Like, I'm going to do a financial blogger conference.
Well, I would say back in 2008, I went to a WordCamp, and I left that feeling like, okay, we need to have a meetup, So since that point, I've kind of felt, let's have a meetup of some type. It just really never happened. I live in Dallas, and there's not really a lot of other bloggers in this area.
Yeah.
They were having meetups in D.C. They were having meetups out in the Bay Area, California, and that was cool. But I would have liked to have seen a kind of a real everyone come together. And so I would say after my business the blog started doing really well in 2010. And in the first part of this year, I sort of had some breathing room. My blog was doing so well that I started looking out at other projects. Mm-hmm. And one of those was this conference. And I said, now that I have time, I have the freedom, I left my full-time job. So blogging was all I was doing. And I said, this is perfect. I have time to do it. Why don't we do it? And I think I read an article that January that said 2011 would be the year of the niche blogging conference.
Yeah.
And that sort of gave me permission. It sort of said, okay, well, that means you can do the financial blogger conference if you want to. There's the beer bloggers conference, there's the food bloggers conference, there's all these niche conferences that are starting up.
You can combine those for next year if you want.
I'm going to tell you, let's talk to the beer blogger guys if they want to get together, do it at once.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so that was sort of what gave me permission, and then I sort of tested it just in conversations and emails with different people, and the response was positive. So I said, well, let's do it.
Yeah.
Just I had energy behind it, and I've learned to when I think about something, like 3 or 4 nights in a row as I'm going to bed, and I can't sort of get that idea out of my head.
Yeah.
Um,
I got too many of those.
Yeah, I mean, you really want to act on that energy.
Yeah.
I found that I'm most effective whenever I stop what I'm doing. So I sort of stopped PT Money for a little bit and said, all right, I'm going to do this 100% because I have a lot of energy and passion behind this. And as I was testing the waters with other people, I could tell they were energetic about it too. So I just sort of knew it was right.
Yeah. For somebody else that's in another niche, and let's say that they haven't put on a conference in that niche yet, what were some of the things that maybe the initial tests that you some feelers that you felt that, okay, there really is something here, whereas if somebody was going to start, in their niche and realize before they got too far, too much time invested, too much money invested, how did you kind of really know, okay, there's really something here?
Well, first, there wasn't any competition. There's Blog World Expo, which is the big blogger conference. But there wasn't any other type of really financial blogger conference at this level. So I knew I had that. If I did it, I would be the only one, right? Yeah. Secondly, I was connected, I feel like, to the right people. I sort of started my blog, I would say, in this sort of the second phase of personal finance bloggers. And so I'm not, quote unquote, a big blogger, an old school blogger, but I know those people. I've had email conversations with those people. I've commented on those people's blogs. They know me. They're aware of me. So I had that sort of connection, but also haven't lost touch with the blogosphere as a whole. I've participated in the community. I've been a part of forums, even the new networks that are starting up. Even though I may not be a member of some of those, I try to reach out to some of those people and connect with some of those people. So I feel like I was sort of positioned in the middle, and I could sort of, reach up to the people who've been doing it longer than me, and they would respect me enough to feel like, I could pull something like this off. But then also I knew the community, as a whole, and could reach out to everyone, and everyone knew PT Money, they're at least aware of me. So I had that going for me. Obviously in any kind of business or organization, the connection is powerful. And so I leveraged that. I was able to leverage that. Not only that, but I got a couple of what I would call, I sort of got reached out to the critical mass to get people. I did it held in Chicago. So yeah. I live in Dallas. I decided to hold it in Chicago because I knew I could get 10 or 15 pretty big bloggers that live in that area to literally drive in, right? It was within driving distance or a short plane flight. So I knew if I could get those people on board, then everything was sort of domino after that, right? So then what I did, I took that information. I said, okay, I'm going to get 10 people there, 10 to 15 people. I know I can get those people there. And then I reached out to maybe 1 or 2 big bloggers and say, here's what I'm doing. Here's who's committed to already coming. And so for instance, when I showed that to J.D. Roth, he said, oh, I'm all about it. Let's do it. If people are coming, it's going to be a thing, then I'm going to do it. And then once I had J.D. Roth, it was like, that was all I really needed. So you need one superstar at least to kick things off, Yeah. And well, you don't need it, but for me to take it from meetup level to full blown conference, I needed that, right? Right. And so once JD got on board, that validated what I was doing and lent credibility to the whole thing, and that was really what it needed. So it's, for anyone who's doing this, I would say, sacrifice your own, I guess, wishes to make sure that the people who need to be there can be there. Do whatever it takes, to get those first people, and then it'll build upon itself. Okay. And that's sort of what I thought I needed to happen. And people in hindsight are like, you didn't need to do that. You could have had it anywhere you wanted. The energy was high enough. Just hold it and people will come. But from my point of view, that's how I chose to build it, and that's how I built confidence with the event. Sort of building it at an organic level like that, and that helped to market it, I guess. From the day that you, okay, I'm going to do the conference.
I think you had thought maybe we'll have 30 to 50 people attend.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what your initial goal was. You ended up having around 280 people show up, and I believe you had to turn people away, if my understanding is correctly. So
Yeah.
kind of just walk us through okay, I'm hoping to get 50 people here to
Yeah.
I've got to send people away and hope they return next year. Like, how did that just metamorphosize?
Yeah. Well, first and foremost, as I said earlier, I think I, I, I'm not the best marketer in the world. Okay, I'll be honest with you. I'm not a sales guy. I'm not a marketing guy. But what I sensed was an energy from the community. So this community was ready for this. They were looking for an excuse to get together, and really, that's what I provided. So from the outset, I really just tapped into the market that was ready. So I could have put together the worst thing in the world, and people still would have showed up, and I would have had more than 50 people there. I feel like, but what I feel like the good things that I feel like I did was, first off, I put together a decent looking website. So I had an online presence. These are bloggers, so you got to have an online presence for these people to associate to. Secondly, I started an email list from day one. I said, I don't have ticket sales yet. I can't ask people to register. So when people hit this site for the first time, I've got to capture that email. And I've got to say, if you want to be a part of this, sign up for the email list, and you'll get all the information. You'll help build this event. You'll help create what we're trying to build. And I took that posture. I didn't take the posture of, this is my event. You can come you can sort of come attend my event.
Mm-hmm.
The posture I took was, help me build something that we all want to be a part of, right?
Yeah.
And so I think that message was well received in the community, and they came to the site, they signed up for the email list, and then by the end of that first week, without even having a ticket to sell or even a location picked out, well, I had a location general, I had Chicago area, but I didn't have a specific location or a date. By the end of that first week, we had 100 people sign up for the email list. So at that point, I said, wow, this is more than a 50 blogger deal,
right?
Because these people were serious about learning about this event and being a part of it. And that was just after 1 week. And I really didn't market it. I sent a couple of emails out. I told a couple of forums about it. Other than that, I didn't mass email a bunch of people. I didn't advertise for it.
Right.
Just like I said, the community was ready. So that was sort of the first big thing was the email campaign, the capture of that, and then it sort of slowly built from there. I allowed people to sign up for the Facebook page. Then I created the Twitter hashtag, and I sort of did these things which bloggers are comfortable with, and bloggers are naturally going to talk about an event like this. We're bloggers, right? I didn't necessarily need press, because we are the press now. Right. So. And the message was getting out slowly, and so it just slowly got people involved, helped to build the conference. We picked the date, we narrowed down the hotel, we did a pre-conference content survey. So I did all these things which helped engage the pre-conference community and get them energized about it and thinking about it beforehand. So it was like the best email marketing campaign I have ever even imagined driving. So that worked out to my benefit, or all of our benefit. And so that's how. So when I eventually opened up registration, I rewarded those people who were on that email list with a discount code. Only a limited number of those, and then so those people signed up really quick, and it just kept blowing up from that point. So
right. So like you said, locking in, JD, who is, I refer to him as like the godfather of, personal finance bloggers.
Right.
I think what really impressed me is I started seeing the speaker panel, really evolve. And the two names that kind of just resonated with me personally, was Ramit Sethi, I will teach you to be rich, .com, and also Pat Flynn from Smart Passive Income, who not so much a personal finance blogger, but if you're in the blogosphere, like, Pat Flynn, like everyone knows like Pat Flynn now.
Right.
What was it like contacting like those and others that maybe weren't really in the niche and kind of getting them excited to to fly in to speak to personal finance bloggers?
Right. That's a good question. You picked up on that well. Pat, I did had to contact. He's not necessarily in our niche, so but he's a rising star, and you know that. I mean, this guy is the real deal, right?
Yeah.
We both know that. And I said, if there's someone outside of our community to come, who do I want to come? And he was the first person I thought of. He's very tactical, real, personable, and I felt like he could do a good job of presenting like real information. That's what I wanted at this conference. Like, no fluff, no people pushing something or just not a lot of high level stuff. I wanted people who could give me like tactical information, and that's one of the first people I thought of outside of our niche.
Yeah.
And so I emailed Pat and I said, Pat, the community really likes you. I know a lot of people in the personal finance community comments on your blog. We all respect what you're doing. We'd love to have you there. Sort of presented it to him that way, and that our community wanted him there, which I felt like was not a false statement. And then, we just worked it out to where, he could come, and he was very on board from day one. I think he was sort of looking to take his business. I sort of caught him at the right time, right?
Right.
You want to catch these rising stars early on, and I caught Pat. He's speaking at Blog World Expo next month, so he wants to make this, I think, in the next phase for him. And I think we were kind of a good initial stepping stone for him to kind of take his own personal brand to the next level. And he completely performed. I mean, this guy had never been on stage really before,
right.
And he closed our conference out, which is like this great inspirational, motivational message that left everyone leaving that conference just inspired and ready to kind of take on the world.
Right. Now, what about, if I think I mentioned this to you before attending, but if there was one guy who I was intimidated in meeting, for me it was Ramit. And I don't know why that is. I'm actually writing a blog post to kind of just express, the reasoning. But, with Ramit is just one of those guys that he'll, you might have a point, but he'll take your point and make it that much better, and then make it seem as if that was his point originally, to where you're like, oh yeah, that's a great idea, when it really wasn't, his idea initially, it was yours. So, and he's like uber successful. I mean, he's got a great blog. He's making buku bucks, New York Times bestseller. Was it any different approaching him with coming to the conference?
So what I did with Ramit actually was I reached out to some of my contacts, and I think at some point they mentioned it to Ramit, and we just eventually connected on the idea, and he was just as fired up. It's something he's wanted to do for a long time. And he actually helped sort of craft some of the final details of the event, awesome. Which I thought were spot on. And he's a great blogger, and he's a great I would say idea guy and marketer as well. And so he sort of helped put some of the final touches on the event, which was really great. I mean, he did an excellent job, I think, as well, of bringing his message as our keynote speaker, and also helping us throw the party on Saturday night, which two events that the keynote was great, and then the party just really made the conference, like you said, really the party you wanted to be a part of and go to. So I owe a lot to those guys for just wanting to be a part of it, and and Ramit really added a lot to it. So. Yeah. I guess I've had some my own, intimidation or whatever, but I guess just after conversations with him, and learning more about him, and just he's a real nice, practical guy, and he's like 5 years younger than me, so I can't be intimidated that long. But
how old is he? I don't even know.
I think he's like 27 or something.
Oh my God,
he's a whiz kid, dude.
Wow.
But,
all right.
Yeah. So, but yeah, he really made the event great. So
we got some of the key personal finance bloggers to attend. You got some outside the niche to kind of bring it all together. Now let's kind of flip the script a little bit and obviously to put on a conference of this magnitude takes some money. Trying to get, obviously people were buying tickets, so that was good. But then sponsorships also play another key part in making this a truly successful conference. Can you share just some of those struggles or just learning processes of approaching sponsors and just getting them fired up for this first annual Financial Blogger Conference?
Sure. When I announced it, the advertisers and the corporate bloggers who are probably well entrenched in our niche already, a lot of those just reached out to me directly and said, "Hey, we don't know what you're going to have involved with this yet, what opportunities, but we want to be a part of it." So from day one, I had people interested because they knew our community was buzzing about it.
Yeah.
So you had those types, and for them, it was just sort of finding the right fit in terms of where they fit in for the sponsorship. Secondly, I reached out to some of my business connections. So over the years, I've built relationships with financial companies, and so I had some connections there. I reached out to a lot of those, and many of those people came through for me and really pushed this idea of this conference up to their higher corporate levels to make sure that they could participate in this and be a part of it financially and help support us. And so I really owe a lot to those people, those relationships. And then I think next, what I did was when I finally initially set up the sponsorship opportunities, what I did was I created sort of two phases. I said, we're growing this thing organically. Okay, so if we just have this conference with 100 people, this is what it will look like. This is our financial needs, right? So I sort of almost created two budgets. But if this thing keeps growing and blows up and we need a big hotel and we need all these other things, then sort of here's what that conference level looks like. So what I did was I created these opportunities and I said, these are going to exist and be available until we reach 100 ticket sales. When we reach 100 ticket sales, this next level of sponsorships is going to open up, right? And the ideas for the sponsorships, I basically just stole from other conferences. So I just went and looked at a bunch of other conferences and what they were doing, what opportunities they were giving to sponsors. So things like, being on the lanyard, being on the tote bag, being the gold sponsor. So really you have a big coverage everywhere, getting to speak on stage. What else? Having an exhibit table, things like that. So I just sort of explored these different avenues and also talked with people. Some of them were like, I don't want to do any of that. I just want to throw a party. Let me throw a party, And I said, so I found what worked for different companies, right?
Yeah.
Was a little flexible. It was my first year, and I just was glad that they were involved, right? So I was very, giving in terms of, here's the opportunities. Oh, you want to do this? Okay, we can do that too, and we can do that too. And sort of as we grew it, I really didn't know. I had my budget, and hotel expenses are up there. I mean, food, AV, those things at hotel. I mean, they've got you captured in that one place. So
if you serve your food bill was, it was like 37. Did I read that correctly?
Yeah, it was like 37 grand, and then AV on top of that was another 15 grand for AV. So these and you can't get around those expenses. Once you're at that hotel, you can't go with anybody else, or you can't bring in an outside group or anything like that. I mean, you've got to work with the hotel people, and they're only going to be as flexible as they need to. They know they've got you where they want you. So anybody who's done their own wedding or done their own event is aware of this. That the hotel market is just got you where they want. They've got you where they want you. So So anyway, I really appreciate our sponsors who did come forward, and that was a learning process for me. I'm not a sales guy, like I said earlier, so I just tried to work with the people who I had relationships with, and I just try to present it matter-of-factly and try to present an opportunity that would be valuable to them. I mean, here we are, and I got some feedback on early on was like, well, it's just a smallish conference, it's 100 people or so. And yeah, but we're not just 100 consumers. We're 100, essentially, we're 100 press organizations, right? We're 100 media. So we all have these huge audiences. So what I did was I took some of that information and tried to show that to the these companies. I took our subscriber numbers, I took our Twitter followers, so I really took our whole online influence and tried to present that versus here's 100 people.
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
Because a typical conference, yeah, it's 100 people attending to learn about whatever, but I mean we have huge audiences and big influences online. So when I presented it to these companies that way, it was like, okay, we've got to be involved with this. And the companies who got it, and they got in early.
Yeah.
And they got really cheap sponsorships. But as the conference grew, people started saying, oh, well, this is something I need to be a part of. And so, next year, it's not going to be, well, I don't want to say that. But, yeah, I really appreciate our sponsors being involved in this early on, in this first year. They took a chance on me. It's not like this was some corporation putting on a sponsorship for the bloggers. It was me. It was under my LLC. I mean, allowed our community to help build it, but I mean, I did it basically from my house here, and so there was a lot of financial risk. I signed a big contract with a hotel, basically putting me on the hook for 25 grand. You know, if this thing didn't happen. So I really appreciate those guys putting a lot of faith in me. And really wanted to be a part of it. And I thought they did great at the conference. I thought it didn't overshadow the conference.
Right.
I feel like it was a good mix.
Yeah.
I'm open to your feedback on that. Whether we even need them in the future, should I raise ticket prices to a level to where we don't need sponsorships, or do we want cheap ticket prices to allow more bloggers to come? And then have some of the costs subsidized by sponsor companies.
Oh, I think the sponsorship there was almost perfect. I mean, it was there. It was there if you want to ask questions. It wasn't too pushy. There was that one sponsor that kind of got a razzing on stage. Poor guy.
Sure.
But for the most part, I thought it was good. I mean, some of them did approach me during like some of the after hours from the but it wasn't too salesy. It wasn't too bad. It was just more of an introduction. So. I think, especially with a lot of personal finance bloggers buying into the frugality of things, they would prefer to buy cheaper tickets, have some sponsorships there. But I mean, I'm from a different mindset. Like, I would have paid more. I mean, I think whatever I paid, $89, whatever the price was, maybe I got a discount. I would have paid more. I mean, I would have paid more to be there because, like you said, I was yearning for this. Like, I was ready, for this to happen, and I was more than excited. I would have paid another $200 for the last 2 more days.
All right.
So
I'll send you an invoice.
I'll direct that somewhere else. But anyway, I think the sponsorship almost has to be. But I think also too is a lot of these companies are a pivotal point of the personal finance blogs community. A lot of them are online banks or credit scoring programs or whoever else was there. I mean, these are real life products and services that people need. It wasn't, other than the one, it wasn't as if they were there trying to sell you something that had nothing to do with our niche whatsoever. So
right.
So I think you're good on that one. So you actually, I was going to ask a little bit about just on the hook for the hotel, the 25 grand. Obviously, that you got to take a big swallow and hope that it all works out. But I think, I was asking some people some feedback on, the conference. And even from my point of view, I never saw anything go wrong. Like, I was always kind of looking around, seeing if you were like nervous or freaking out, like maybe, whether the audio wasn't working or a microphone wasn't working but I mean, I never noticed one hitch through the entire conference. And I think a lot of people just want to know, like, did it work out like exactly the way you looked at it, or that you hoped it would? Was there any glitches? And if there were, how did you overcome those, like shooting from the hip?
Yeah, that's a good question. I would say overall, my vision for the conference came true, and then some. I mean, I had this sort of picture in my head of how it would work out logistically, what the people would be doing at different phases, sort of how things would build upon themselves, and it all really worked out. I mean, I have really no complaints. I mean, at a certain point, you have to put faith in the hotel. They're a big part of this, right? Putting on the food, making sure the tables are set up. So the hotel did an excellent job of making sure everything was in place where it needed to be. The staff, about a month before the conference, I decided that I needed basically full-time staff that weekend. people who live close to me, so I could like connect with them a few weeks before to really work out all the details face to face and really get this conference, literally scripted. And that's what we did. We built a script for the conference. And that's what you have to do with any event like this, I feel like, that has a lot of people moving around from thing to thing, especially on Saturday where we had a lot of stuff crammed into one day. Some people say too much, but I wanted it to be action-packed. I wanted people to get a lot of content over a short amount of time. I didn't want a lot of fluff. And so when someone was on stage, they were presenting their best stuff. And, there wasn't a lot of a dead air up there. So what we needed to do was move those people on and off the stage quickly. That happened well. We had a couple of technical things go wrong. Some of the slides got messed up for some of the speakers. We didn't do a good job of communicating Ramit Sethi and Justin Primick from AWeber's session on Saturday at 1 o'clock. So we had some people still left at the Ask the Expert tables who wanted to also be at that, and they didn't realize they were going on at the same time. We probably didn't do a good job of communicating what the Saturday night party was. I called it an after party. I assumed that meant people would know that it was a party and that it would be, kind of a fun atmosphere, not a laid-back atmosphere. And so some people, we didn't communicate that it was kind of a happening scene at this club. Other than that, I think maybe just a few small things here and there. But my staff did such a good job of picking up, those pieces that were, that occasionally did fall through. They did a good job of kind of fixing those for me. And I felt like my role for the weekend was to remain calm. I said to myself before the weekend, no matter what happens, you be the calm guy. You be the guy that says it's gonna work out. It's gonna be okay. Because I had the confidence that everyone there just wanted to be together. They just wanted to be in the same room together. I literally could have rented a big high school gymnasium or something for 5 hours, and everyone would have loved me that I did this thing.
Yeah.
So the bar was really low for me in terms of making this event happen. So I think that's a big part of it. Hopefully there won't be a sophomore slump next year, and hopefully everything won't fall apart next year. But yeah, so there were a few minor things, but for the most part, I feel lucky that it went off as well as it did. So, but that's a testament to the community and the staff we had involved and the hotel, and everyone played their part, right? I mean, I can only do so much. Once this thing gets set in motion, it's going to happen. But for the most part, people know what to expect at a conference, what to do, how to conduct themselves, and people did a good job of that. And so that's why it went off so effectively, I think.
Yeah. So you kind of alluded to it a little bit. So FinCon 2011, huge success. I think I'm already ready for FinCon 2012. From your standpoint, how do you expect it to get bigger? Do you feel like you want to kind of keep it at a certain level? And also, like, how do you bring that same energy, same excitement to keep to people want to come back, for next year?
Sure. Well, as far as keeping the same energy, I feel like we sort of left this previous one wanting more. I don't know if you felt that way, but I know a lot of people were telling me, I just wish it was longer. I just wish it was longer. Mm-hmm. And then there was a lot of people who missed out and didn't get to come. And I've heard nothing but, man, I'm going to be there next year for sure. I'm going to be there, So I feel like there's this sort of leftover energy from the first one that will extend to number 2. So I feel like we've got that going for us. Not only that, but I feel like this community is naturally, they want more of this, So I feel like the energy will be there again for next year. As far as next year goes, I definitely want to do it. I am planning to do it, and the post-conference survey showed that there are 4. I'll give you a little preview. There are 4 cities that scored high on the post-conference survey that people want to have this thing at next year. So obviously we could have it in Chicago again. A lot of people like that location, but if we did it in Chicago, it's going to be downtown. Yeah. So people want it to be closer to the city. Other cities that scored high were Las Vegas, of course. Everyone thinks of Las Vegas when they think of a conference. Mm-hmm. If we did it in Vegas, though, I don't know if it would maintain that sort of tight knit community feel. I feel like people would want to maybe go do things too much while they're there.
Yeah.
But Vegas is a good alternative. It's a cheap hotel, cheap flight. San Diego also scored high, and then also Dallas scored high. So Dallas, where I'm from, I think people were sort of paying homage to me with that vote and saying it'd be okay if we had it in the Dallas area next year, where I live, where I could maybe create an event that's maybe a little more special, a little more unique, and put my local touch on it.
Yeah. Yeah. And you have In-N-Out in Dallas, correct?
That's right, man. We do. Yeah.
Got my vote.
Okay. All right. Good to know. And for next year, I mentioned sort of how we left it people wanting more. Next year, I feel like it maybe need to be extended by a day, maybe, and spread out a little bit. I feel like maybe crammed too much into 2.5 days.
I know for me, like I didn't get there till Friday afternoon, and I missed the Phil's Friends, the Love Drop thing, and I kicked myself for it. And if I could do it over again, I would have got there Thursday evening, and just kind of networked a little bit Friday. So I mean, I would have loved for it to be 3 days, and I would, if you did that for next year, I would do everything in my power to make sure that I could be there. So
yeah, so that's what I'm thinking. 3 days at least, and then that means we need to keep the hotel cheap, right?
Yeah.
So, I'm going to do everything I can to keep the hotel a reasonable price. Of course, the ticket price at a reasonable price, except for you. I'll charge you an extra $200, and then we'll get together and we'll have fun. I think people want to do it again, so I'm excited to be in this place, and I'm honored that I can have the chance to plan it. So
no, dude, I would say on behalf of me and the personal finance blogging community, we thank you for putting on this party, this conference for us. Is there anything that you want to close with, just to close with the conference? Anything?
Just thank you to the community for wanting to be a part of it and for putting so much energy behind it and helping me to plan it. Thank you for making it a great event. It's an event where everyone contributed, both on stage and off, from our community. So, I would just say a challenge to everyone out there. Think about what you want to get out of next year's conference. Whether you want to be a presenter, whether you want to play some other type of role, or what you want to get out of it as an attendee. And let's make this our event that we look forward to every year. That helps not only us individually, but helps our whole community grow together, and ultimately helps the consumer, on the financial end of things, to be more educated about how to handle their finances. And so that would be what I would say. Just get ready for next year. Let's do it again.
I'm ready, baby. I'm ready. Phil, PT, appreciate the time, and we'll definitely check you again. Appreciate all that you've done for the conference and the community and all that stuff. So appreciate it, buddy. And we'll talk to you again soon.
All right, Jeff. Thanks, man.
See you, buddy.